S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 1. Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. Importance of courtship. Courtship is an ultimate relationship between a man and a woman who are attracted to each other, with the aim of getting married. It's also a period where a man and a woman attracted to each spend studying each other in preparation for marriage. It helps a man and a woman to express the affection or love they have for each other since they do it by exchanging gifts, giving time to each other, attending parties together, etc. The partners are able to find out their religious differences and they come to an agreement. During the period of courtship, like if they belong to different religions, they may agree on which religion to share or want to remain in his or her religion. During courtship, they are able to learn of their emotional feelings, that is how one can react to different moments like happiness or when annoyed. During courtship, partners are able to understand each other's academic level so that they can agree before starting up a family, like if one is educated and another partner is illiterate. They have to discuss it during courtship than waiting to get married. It also helps them to know the cultural background of each other, that is the language to use, customs of the culture, the do's and don'ts of the culture. They will sit and agree and, where necessary, they adjust. Courtship also helps partners to introduce each other to close relatives like the sisters, brothers and parents. During courtship, partners are able to know each other's health status. They can go for HIV tests and they can also test for other chronic diseases like sickle cells. During courtship, partners are able to know each other's personal habits, e.g. to know if one is greedy, generous, etc. It helps them to openly discuss and reach an agreement on the nature of the family they will have, e.g. they may decide to have a nuclear or extended family, consider the number of children to have when they get married. It helps them to plan for their marriage, like organize for parents' visit, introduction, ceremony and finally wedding. During courtship, they are able to know each other's job and find out if they can relate. The nature of the job, like if the one works from up-country distant jobs, have many disadvantages. Disadvantages of courtship. Some new partners may force their partners into sexual relationships before marriage, and this results in getting unwanted pregnancies and sometimes affecting their faith. Yet, according to Christianity, sex before marriage is a sin. Partners may get limited time to study each other, forcing them to make bad choices as far as choosing a marriage partner is concerned. S3 CRE. S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 2. Is done without the consent of the parents, leading to conflicts with the parents where parents may disapprove the choice of their children considering the family background, religion, etc. Sometimes partners ignore discussing important issues like family background, education levels, and only concentrate on romance, which makes them regret in future. There is a wide spread of indiscipline and immorality during courtship because partners have a lot of time where they drink, dance, etc. There are dangers of getting sexually transmitted diseases through having sex before marriage, just because young people tend to misuse the period of courtship. Because of sex abuse during courtship, young people have resorted to carrying out abortion after getting unwanted pregnancies. Modern courtship lacks guidance from parents, and the young people are left on their own to do what they want during courtship. There is a danger of peer group influence, where young people are given wrong information about sex-related issues, like some people say that if you take long without having sex, you may develop back pain, yet some girls experience back pain during menstruation and end up having sex before marriage. It's sometimes difficult to know or discover certain negative aspects about the partner, for example, barrenness. There is a lot of telling lies about oneself during courtship, which may result in making a wrong decision. Getting disappointed is also common during courtship, where one may be chucked by the partner intending to marry her. Abuse of courtship. Fornication / premarital sex. This is when partners decide to have sex before marriage. Causes of fornication. Today, most of the youth have been influenced by their friends to have sex before marriage because they don't want to be left by their friends. S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 3. Lack of parental love, care and guidance has forced many youth to look out for love from strangers, hence abusing sex. Many youth have had sex before marriage due to curiosity and desire to discover more about sex. They try to find mystery surrounding sex, like many youth want to find out by themselves how it feels like when having sex. Many people today fornicate due to permissiveness of the society, a situation where people are given a lot of freedom to do what they want, and they have ended up having sex. Many youth today have misused sex today due to lust, which makes some of the youth lose sex control over their feelings, especially in the presence of members of the opposite sex. Fear of being rejected by the boy has many girls to have sex before marriage in order to protect their relationship. Influence of the Western culture, where some youth copy the Western ways of living, like kissing, romancing, and have ended up having sex For example, shown by the parents who don't mind and care about their children and have ended up kissing in front of their children, changing sexual partners, yet the children learn from them. Decline in religion among the youth, invasion of God, where many youth today no longer value religion or God and have ended up behaving contrary to their religion. Dangers of fornication/premarital sex. Getting sexually transmitted diseases in case the youth get involved in unprotected sexual intercourse. Many youth have got HIV/AIDS, syphilis. Some girls have ended up getting unwanted pregnancies and have ended up carrying out abortion, which is condemned in the Bible. The two may end up dropping out of school because of the pregnancies they carry. They can easily be expelled from school since it's against the school rules and regulations. It leads to loss of virginity, which can't be regained again. Due to unwanted pregnancies, the couple may be tempted to carry out abortion, and many girls and women have ended up losing their lives in the effort of carrying out abortion. It leads to loss of respect and divinity, more especially on the side of the girl who may have had sex with more than one partner. It can lead to imprisonment on the side of the boy, especially if found with a girl below 18 years and still in school. Girls are given nicknames after having sex with more than one boyfriend. She used tissue, a basin used by everyone. It can lead to forced marriages, which in the long run may affect one's career. Having sex before marriage is a sin before God, therefore it can affect one's relationship with God, like Peter said that fornicators will never see the kingdom of God. It can lead to conflicts between the parents of the boy and the girl. Then, as a Christian, what advice would you give to the youth who have intentions of having sex? S3 Cree note subtheme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 4. I would advise the youth that a Christian's body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, so they should do away with fornication. I would advise the youth to have self-control over their bodies and avoid misusing sex. I would advise the youth to seek for God's guidance. This can make one to make proper decision. I would advise the youth, especially girls, to keep their virginity as Mary, the mother of Jesus. I would advise the youth to respect their bodies, since they were created in God's image, which has to be respected. I would advise the youth to live a holy life and avoid getting in a situation that is unholy. Christians are called upon to be exemplary so that the young Christians can learn from them. I would advise the youth who lack in life the necessities to seek from their parents, relatives, instead of having sex before marriage in order to get material things. Other forms of sex misuse/deviation/abuse. Q&A. Explain the various ways in which people today have abused sex. Adultery. This refers to having sex outside marriage bonds. This is where married people have sex with people who are not their marriage partner. Masturbation. This is where people obtain sexual satisfaction by manipulating their sexual organs. For example, boys do it by touching their penis and girls do it by using penis-like structures, like carrots, bananas, etc. Homosexuality. This is having sexual intercourse between a boy or a man and man. Lesbianism. This refers to having sexual intercourse between a girl or woman and woman. Prostitution. This refers to having a sexual intercourse in return for money or material things. Rape. This refers to as having sex by force or without the consent of the other partner. Defilement. This is the act of having sex with a person who is under 18 years. Bestiality. This is having sexual intercourse with animals, for example cows, goats, dogs, etc. Incest. This is having sex with a close blood relative, for example brother and sister. And me. The causes of the above are almost the same with those of fornication. Factors considered when choosing a marriage partner. People should consider the faith or religious difference of a person they want to marry. For example, a Christian should marry a fellow Christian. People should consider the love or affection they have for each other before officially getting married to each other. Partners should consider the physical appearance of the partner they want to marry, for example size, color, height, etc. Partners should consider the personal character of a person, like kindness, patience, politeness. S3 Cree note sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 5. The health status should be considered when looking for a marriage partner. They should carry out tests before officially getting married, for example know the HIV status test for sickle cells. They should consider the education level to ensure that they can reason at the same level. They should consider the personal hobbies like watching football, swimming, etc. If the hobbies don't match, one partner may end up getting bored in his marriage. One should consider the cultural difference in case they are coming from different cultures. They should find out how to deal with different cultural practices in order to have peace and harmony in marriage. People should consider the age difference, like women should get married to men who are older than them and men should marry women who are younger than them. They should consider the financial status of the person they want to marry to see if the partner can be in position to take care and look after the family. Family background remains a strong point to consider when looking for a marriage. Partner, for example, partners should find out whether the partner they want to marry are from stable families. Types of marriages. The following are the different forms of marriage. 1. Church marriage. 2. Traditional/customary. 3. Trial marriage. 4. Civil marriage. Major characteristics of church marriage. It takes place in church and it's officiated by religious leaders like pastors, priests, reverends, etc. It is presided over by pastors, reverends, and in Uganda today not all pastors have authority to officiate over marriage, so partners should find out why pastors are recognized and allowed to officiate marriage. Partners have to first fulfill the traditional requirements like payment of dowry. The church investigates if the partners have been married before, i.e., the church makes announcements in church to alert the congregation, and in case one of the partners was married before the wedding. S3 Cree notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and marriage. 6. There is issuing of marriage certificates to marriage partner declared as husband and wife. Reasons why some people are interested in church marriage. Because it strengthens marriage bonds. To make a public show of one's marriage status. To enjoy church sacraments, for example taking of the Eucharist. It is a requirement and fulfillment of the righteousness. It gives full recognition in homes and has full right over property. Because it puts one in a better position to be appointed as a leader in church. Because some people use it as a show off of their wealth. Reasons why some people reject church marriage. Because church marriage is very expensive because it involves purchasing expensive things like gowns, suits, hiring expensive cars, and all these expenses are for the couple. Some African cultures consider church marriage as a foreign culture for the Europeans and therefore they advise their children to go for traditional marriage. Some people fear permanent relationships. They fear the fact that they may commit themselves and later they find that the partner is not suitable for them. If partners are of different religious beliefs and one is not ready to convert to another religion, they may not go in for church marriage. Church marriage encourages people to follow monogamous marriage, yet some men find it difficult to get sexually satisfied by one partner since they believe that women are different. Some people have never gone to church and therefore they do not see any reason of going to church just for a wedding. Some people fear church marriage because of the bad examples shown by those married church. Like they commit adultery, they fight in public, etc. Church marriage is characterized with a long process and young people fear this process, that is why they opt for other forms of marriage. Church leaders are unexemplary, therefore people don't see any reason why they should go for church marriage because they don't trust them. For example, some church leaders have committed adultery, have misused church funds, etc. S3 notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and marriage. 7. How best would Christians be encouraged to go for church marriages? It was God officiated marriage between Adam and Eve, and therefore God is the author of marriage. Christians who are married in church enjoy high chances of getting blessings from the church. Because priests regularly visit and bless them, therefore Christians should marry in the church so as to get blessings. People who marry in church enjoy Holy Sacrament without hesitation, for example enjoy the Holy Communion, they are given special prayers, they are reorganized in special way, therefore they should go for church marriage. People who marry in church are assisted in formation of church groups, for example Mother's Union, Father's Union, and also assist each other to acquire developmental skills. Children produced by parents married in church stand high chances of being raised with church principle and even encourage their children for proper bringing of their grandchildren. People who fear church marriage because of the expenses should be encouraged to take up simple weddings, invite few people, or even go for mass weddings. Partners who take up church marriage are believed to gain respect from their parents, relatives, and public. The church fees/dues should be reduced or completely be eliminated in order to encourage the youth to take on church marriage. Customary/traditional marriage. This is the type of marriage based on traditional customs and norms of a given society. Characteristics of customary marriage/traditional marriage. Two families reach an agreement for their children to be married. They may even contribute on the bride wealth on behalf of their children. It was highly recognized as a divine institution whose success depended on blessing of God and ancestors. Parents had a choice to make and help in selecting a suitable partner for their son or daughter. Virginity was highly respected, and those who married virgins were rewarded and appreciated and even respected. S3 note sub-theme 111 Courtship and marriage. A. Premarital counseling was very important before marriage, and it was in form of sex education. For example, among the Bajishu of eastern Uganda, sex education would be passed on to the boys during circumcision. Polygamy was allowed provided one was able to pay the bride price for all the women. Production of children was very important, that is why in childless marriages a man was allowed to marry another wife. Marriage was meant to be permanent, and divorce was condemned. However, in some few cases, divorce was allowed. It was a necessary step in every man's life and was the time to prove his manhood and responsibility. If one was old but unmarried, he was denied respect. The health status of both the man and the woman had to be considered and researched about before marriage. Civil marriage. It is a kind of marriage officiated by a government officer, e.g. RDC, CAO, or any other dedicated government officer. Characteristics of civil marriage. It takes place before any government officer like RDC, CAO who officiate and signs on the marriage certificate. The partners intending to get married must first reach an agreement without being forced. They may even agree upon the period they are to be together before and after marrying. If for only partners who are above 18 years of age, and no one must be forced into marriage. It may be temporary or permanent depending on the couple's wish and may dissolve at any time they wish. Partners carry a letter of permission from their parents, meaning they fulfilled the traditional obligation of paying dowry. It is supposed to be witnessed by at least 2 people who sign on the marriage certificate. There must be a notice to the public making the inquiries about the concerned people and helping the government to know if they had never been married before. It encourages people of different religions to get married, and this is because the individual. S3 Cree note sub-theme 111 Courtship and marriage. 9. Trial marriage. This is the type of marriage where 2 people planning to get married stay together before getting married. Those who go for this type of marriage may want to know each other before deciding to get officially married. Reasons why many people go for trial marriage. It is easy to organize since the concerned people may not inform other people as it's not official. It enables the man to accumulate wealth, property, and other materials to use for bride price. It allows the couple to study each other's character and take a decision. If one is not satisfied with one's character, they may decide to separate. It is cheap since in most cases men don't pay anything to girls' parents. People fear to commit themselves to each other and end up going for trial marriage, which can dissolve any time. Decline in religion makes many people to despise Christian principles of marriage. They want to test their partners sexually, and in most cases men want to compare and finally pick the best. People want to test their fertility before commitment, and this is because they fear to be disappointed in case they get married to a barren woman or impotent man. The decline in culture has forced many to go for trial marriage because they don't see any value in paying dowry. Permissiveness has forced many people to go for trial marriage because they have seen other. Some people do it due to cultural demand. For example, the Langis and Acholis, they demand that young people should first stay together before making their marriage official. The bad example shown by the people married in church and traditionally has forced people to opt trial marriage. Today's understanding about marriage. People understand marriage as a permanent union. That is why many people opt for church marriage, which discourages divorce. Some people understand marriage as one which is blessed with children. Childless marriages. Normally unhappy, and the blame in most cases is put on the woman. S3 Cree note sub-theme 111 Courtship and marriage. 10. People understand marriage as one where partners are supposed to be faithful. This means that after making vows in church, they are supposed to respect them and remain faithful to each other. The public is always called upon to witness the ceremony in church, a reception, etc. Intermarriages are common today. For example, in Uganda, marrying a Musinga. Living a single life/celibacy life is also common and also accepted. People also understand marriage as one where there is equality between husband and wife as far as family responsibility is concerned. Polygamy still exists in some societies as men who are well off and due to some factors marry more than one wife. Divorce is also common today. Many people prefer church marriage to any other type of marriage like civil and customary marriage. There are also many cases of unfaithfulness. Causes of unmarried state today. QN. Give reasons why many people today choose not to get married. Many people choose not to get married because of the following reasons. Some people remain unmarried because of religious commitment. For example, in the Catholic Church, the nuns and priests are unmarried due to religious commitment. Some people fear responsibilities like buying food, paying school fees, etc. Some people remain unmarried simply because they fear permanent marriage partners. Some people fear to get married because of the bad experiences they have gone through, like they have been raped, they have been divorced for minor reasons, etc. Due to bad peer group influence, that is, many friends who are not married may influence those who want to get married so that they remain unmarried. Because they fear to pay bride wealth, this has many youth to fear to get married more, especially if in that particular society bride price is expensive. Some fear to get sexually transmitted diseases, for example AIDS. Some people fear getting married because of their family background. For example, some people are night dancers, witch doctors, etc. S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 11. Some people fear getting married because of the several disappointments they have gone through. Monogamy. This is a form of marriage where a man marries only one wife. Advantages of monogamy. It shows man's response to God's intention of marriage, that is, God created one man Adam and he gave him one wife Eve. It promotes a stable marriage since the partners find it easily to reach an agreement. There is mutual understanding since the man gives all his love to his wife. It sets a good example to the children and other family members since there is harmony and peace in such families. It provides a good environment for the children to enjoy parental love. It helps in disciplining of the children. The parents, especially the father, is always around to check on the behavior of the children. The chances of acquiring of sexual transmitted diseases are less. This is because sexual network is highly regulated. It is a good strategy for family planning, hence resulting into a small family that can be managed. It becomes easy to meet all the basic needs in a family since the family is small. Decision-making in the family is easy because there are few members in the family. Problems associated with monogamy. Disadvantages. Some women fail to get married since a man is restricted to one woman, which is not the case in polygamous marriage where a man can marry many wives. Some men are sexually starved with one wife and also find it difficult to get sexually satisfied with one wife, and they may live a miserable life. If a man marries a woman who is barren, he may die a childless man in monogamous marriage. Since a man can't marry another woman, it limits the number of laborers who would work in a family garden and other domestic activities because the number of children produced by one woman can't be compared to those produced by many wives. A woman in monogamous marriage is overworked. This makes her less attractive to the husband. S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 12. It leads to unhappy marriages after the partners discovering hidden characters, for example, practicing witchcraft. The chances of replacing and producing other children in case of accident, death of children in case the woman is old and can't produce anymore. Divorce in present situation. Divorce is a situation where married people separate. Reasons for divorce today. Unfaithfulness whereby one partner may decide to divorce each, e.g. Pastor David Kaganda divorced Hadid Inesoj because she was unfaithful after committing adultery. Chronic diseases which may not be tolerated by a partner, e.g. sickle cell. The practice of antisocial acts in a society today, like being quarrelsome all the time, can result in divorce. Long period of separation, for example, when one is imprisoned for many years, working far away. Having distant relationship, like the late Nelson Mandela divorced Winnie Mandela because he was imprisoned for a long period of time for 27 years because Winnie was unfaithful to him. Lack of sexual satisfactions, that is, one partner fails to get sexually satisfied by the partner, may lead to divorce in order to get one who can satisfy him/her sexually. Domestic violence, like overbeating the wife, can lead to divorce. For example, Dr. Spesoza Wanderer divorced with the husband due to domestic violence. Bad habits like gossiping, bedwetting can also lead loss of peace and harmony in the family, hence leading to divorce. Alcoholism and drug abuse, which may result into irresponsible parents. They may end up fighting. Use vulgar language in presence of the children. Women emancipation, which has empowered women, and this has come up with negative impact. Like some women no longer give respect to their husbands because they can support themselves with their children without the support of men. Barrenness and impotence causing failure to children may also force the partner to move and divorce. Poverty has also caused divorce, where many women in the society find it hard to tolerate poor. S3 Korean Note Sub-Theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 13. Cultural difference may also lead to divorce, where people may divorce on ground of cultural difference. Difference in education levels may lead to divorce, like if the woman is more educated than the man can sometimes find it hard to agree on some issues due to education difference. Courtship and marriage in African traditional society. In African traditional society, one who is old enough was expected to marry, and single life was unacceptable. How marriage partners were chosen in African traditional society. Through use of parental choice, where parents made choices for their children through consulting fellow parents, and these choices were made comparing the character of the chosen person. Through beer parties, where out of excitement a man would end up giving out his daughter to the son of a friend, for example. This was very common among the Aitsats of eastern Uganda. The man would give out the daughter during beer parties. Through using the method of wrestling in some communities, and this was done by the bride and the groom-to-be. If the man won, he would go ahead to marry the woman, but when lost, marriage would be cancelled. For example, this practice was common among the Acholis of northern Uganda. Through following the cultural demands for among the Baganda of central Uganda, the elder brother was allowed to marry the wife of the deceased through widow inheritance. Through use of friends and peers who would spot a marriage partner for their friend. through use of initiation ceremonies, for example among the Bajishu of eastern Uganda. After circumcision, it was must for the circumcised man to pick a girl who was suitable for marriage, through booking the womb of the expectant mother for their son before the child was born, and this depended on the relationship between the two families. Through forceful capture, a key group of boys would capture a girl and hide her in a hidden place, and one responsible boy would report to the girl's family, but at times the girl would be pregnant. For example, this practice was common among the Lineys of northern Uganda. Through use of threats and intimidations, here the interested family would keep on sending threats to the girl's family, hence putting too much pressure on the girl's family, and later they would allow. S3 Cree notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 14. Ways through which African traditional societies prepared their young ones for marriage. They influenced people to go for initiation rites to prepare them for adulthood, because in some communities one was not considered an adult before fulfilling stages of adulthood. For example, among the Bajishu of eastern Uganda, more emphasis was put on circumcision. They trained them their sex roles depending on age and gender. For example, among the Baganda of central Uganda, they trained girls how to cook and boys how to hunt, look after the family in preparation for marriage. Sex education was given to both the girls and boys by the aunts and uncles. They taught them skills as far as sex was concerned. For example, among the Baganda of central Uganda, boys were taught their family responsibilities by their uncles, and the aunt would take the girls to bush schools where sex education was passed on. They organized for them courtship sessions which were closely monitored by responsible relatives, in order for them to avoid sex before marriage and regrets. Bride price was paid to the girls' parents before marriage as a way of appreciating them. Guidance and counseling was provided to the boys and girls by old people with experience, taught to the young ones about the likely challenges that they would find in marriages. Virginity was emphasized by the parents since it was highly valued, and a lot of bride wealth would be given to the girl's parents. Visiting the girl's home by the relatives of the boy and the go-between to fix the date for the payment of bride wealth. The introduction ceremony followed in payment of bride wealth, and this varied from one society to another, but in all this was very important. Organizing of the marriage ceremony was done that would mark the giving away of the daughter. For example, among the Banyankole of western Uganda, it was referred to as Kuhingira. Herein, how did the Africans protect the marriage institution? The Africans protected the marriage institution by 1. Paying bride price. 2. Making marriage a community affair. S3 Cree notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 15. 10. Teaching girls how to endure. 11. Teaching girls to hardworking. 12. Making marriage compulsory. 13. Carrying out courtship with strict supervision by the elders. Qualities considered before choosing a marriage partner in African traditional society. Africans considered the discipline of a person by looking for a person who was morally upright. They considered the family background. This helped them to rule out cases of night dancers, witches, etc. They considered a person who had fulfilled the initiation rites. For example, among the Baganda of central Uganda, the girl to go for marriage, she had to first complete the pulling ritual / visiting of the bush, and among the Bajishu of eastern Uganda, one had to be circumcised. They considered the health status of a person, and those who were suffering from incurable diseases still have low chances of getting married. For example, among the Baganda of central Uganda, those who had leprosy had a very big disadvantage of getting a marriage partner. They considered the cultural background or tribe of a person where partners were supposed to be of the same tribe. This helped them to have stable marriages because they would easily understand each other. They considered a person who was brave and skilled like hunters, wrestlers, warriors. They had an advantage of getting a married partner. They considered the productivity of a woman because in African traditional society the major purpose of marriage was for production of children. Africans also consider someone's economic ability on the side of men. For example, among the Bahima of western Uganda and Karamojans of northeastern Uganda, they considered the number of cows one had. Virginity was highly regarded while looking for a marriage partner. A girl to get a marriage partner was supposed to be a virgin. Bride wealth / dowry. This is wealth or gifts brought to the family of the bride by the family of the groom-to-be. S3 Cree notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 16. Payment of bride wealth demonstrated love and care the boy had for the girl, and it also showed how the man was willing to sacrifice his wealth because of love. Payment of bride wealth showed respect to the girl's parents that the boy was not willing to stay with girl without getting permission from the parents. It showed how responsible the man was, and also proved to the girl's family that the man could take care and look after their daughter. Payment of bride price helped the man to given respect by the girl's family. It gave the man legal authority over his wife, and this was an indicator that the woman belonged to that particular man and she was answerable to that man only. It encouraged the man to work hard so that he would get the bride price. In some tribes it was in form cattle or goats. For example, among the Bahima and Karamajons they paid dowry in form of cattle. It was a way of fighting poverty on the side of the girl's family, like in societies where they asked for dowry on form cattle. It encouraged young girls to keep their virginity up to the time of marriage because virginity fetched a lot of dowry to the girl's family. Misuse of dowry payments / disadvantages of bride wealth. Expensive bride wealth showed that the partners wanted to show off and their parents were after riches, which indicated that they are just selling off their daughter, and in case of any mistreatment in marriage the parents would feel guilty. Some husbands ended up mistreating their wives, claiming that they paid heavily for them and therefore they should overwork to pay back. Many men resorted to polygamous marriages because they had ability to pay bride price for more than one wife. Bride price forced parents to take their children for marriage when they were still young because parents had greed for wealth. The payment of expensive bride wealth left the boy on the state of poverty because he had to strain himself so as to raise the demanded wealth. Expensive dowry forced some few girls to go for marriage without the parents' consent. S3 Creen notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 17. Some men treated their wives as bought property, which resulted into misunderstandings. Characteristics of marriage in African traditional society. Marriage linked the two families together as relatives since they became in-laws. The choices of marriage partner were done by parents. Children were denied the chance to make their own choices. Virginity was highly respected and reorganized, and parents of a virgin girl were highly rewarded. Dowry payment was highly emphasized and it was used as a seal of marriages. Premarital counseling was a must to everyone before getting married. This session involved provided sex education, which was mainly done by the uncles and aunts. Marriage in African traditional society was compulsory and everyone who was old enough was supposed to marry. Marriage was also looked at as a permanent union, however in some few cases divorce was accepted. Polygamy was accepted as a way of ensuring that all women got a chance of getting married and ensuring that men were always sexually satisfied all the time. For example, this practice was common among the Basoga of eastern Uganda. The primary purpose of marriage was for production of children, and therefore childless marriages were unhappy. Incestuous marriages were prohibited. That is why parents found out the family background before marriage. Women were inferior to men and were supposed to be subordinates to their husbands. There was widow inheritance, that is, in case a woman lost the husband, the brother of the deceased had to marry off the widow. For example, this practice was common among the Basoga of eastern Uganda. Polygamous marriages. This is a situation where a man marries more than one wife. It was common in African advantages. It was a sign of prestige to marry more than one wife, where a man would be praised by the public for being able to look after many wives. S3 Creen notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 18. It was a source of labor whereby many wives would produce many children to work in the farms/gardens. It ensured that the husband was sexually satisfied all the time in case the first wife was pregnant, sick, angry, or absent, etc. It ensured maximum care, loyalty in order to win the love of the husband, since women competed in order to win favor from their husband. It was one way of expanding the clan through production of children. It cared for all the mature girls who were ready for marriage but lacked husbands. Many wives symbolized wealth because it proved a man's ability to pay bride wealth for all the women. Many children were produced in the shortest time possible under polygamy. Polygamy provided men and women with maximum support at old age. Many children produced. Disadvantages. It leads to conflict between the women and the children, since women fight each other after getting a small share of property. Lack of sexual satisfaction on the side of women with high sex libido, leading to unfaithful. It leads to witchcraft practices as women are competing for love and care. Children may become undisciplined as the father having less time for them. Polygamous families lack parental love and care as women influence their husbands to favor their children at the expense of others. This unity becomes inevitable during succession because each woman will want her son to become the heir. Polygamous marriages may lead to financial problems as the man has to look after a big family. Polygamy promotes the spread of sexually transmitted diseases such as AIDS, leading to loss of lives. Polygamy undermines the fundamental human rights of women as they are regarded to mere servants of the man besides being sexual objects. S3 Creen notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 19. There is a tendency of neglecting the family property since nobody takes full responsibility of taking care. Importance of marriage in African tradition. Marriage fulfilled the obligation and duty and traditional customs that every normal person should get married and produce children. Marriage acted as a uniting link in the rhythm of life where generations were bound together in the act of marriage, that is the present and the past generation. It created a new social relationship between families and relatives involved. Marriage was important in bringing people to life, while death takes away individuals one by one. Marriage was a source of status in African societies. The unmarried ones were despised and regarded as nothing. It was important in regaining the lost immortality. The departed were reborn through marriage. Marriage gave a person completeness since it was an experience which was expected to be undergone by every one. Failure to have it meant that the person was considered to be incomplete. Divorce in African traditional society. Reasons why divorce was unheard of in African traditional society. Parents were involved in choosing marriage partners for their children, and they continuously gave advice to their children. Payment of dowry was always done, which sealed marriage, and in some societies bride price was refunded in case of divorce. Polygamous marriages were common. In case the first wife was barren, the husband would not divorce her but would marry another wife. Divorce was a very great shame to the girl, and therefore the girl was forced to behave and respect their marriage in order not to be divorced. It was difficult getting a wife in the past, where it involved a lot of hard work on the man's side to get bride wealth. Women were inferior. This forced them to always be submissive to their husbands, hence limiting divorce. S3 notes sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 20. Single life was never tolerated in African traditional society, therefore those who were married feared to remain single again through divorce. Premarital counseling was provided to the boys and girls before marriage, so they entered marriage knowing what to do while in marriage. Virginity was emphasized, so girls entered marriage knowing only that one man without comparing him to other men. Circumstances under which divorce was accepted in African traditional society. In case the woman was considered to be of bad omen to the man and family at large. In case the wife was extremely lazy and was unable to look after the family in terms of farming, domestic work and caring for children. In case the woman committed adultery, the man was allowed to divorce the wife. Some societies accepted divorce in case the man was found impotent. In case the man failed to pay bride price, divorce was accepted. In some societies, divorce was accepted in case parents thought that their son got a wrong marriage partner. In some societies, in case the woman was considered to be of a bad omen to the man and the family at large. Divorce was allowed in case of an incestuous marriage noticed by the elders. Divorce was accepted in case a newly married girl was found to have lost her virginity before marriage. In societies, divorce was accepted in case of mental illness or any other incurable diseases. In some societies, divorce was accepted in case of practicing unacceptable behavior in the community practiced by one partner, for example, witchcraft. Church history. Marriage in church history. The early believers emphasized the following views in preparation for good marriage. They advocated for monogamy as an ideal form of marriage and disapproved polygamy. S3 note sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 21. They called upon Christians to have some period of courtship and did not specify the period of time to spend in courtship. The early believers emphasized that the husbands and the wives have equal rights in marriage. They also taught that children are a gift from God in marriage. That marriage can be expressed physically and emotionally, whereby marriage is protected by self-control and also do away with selfishness in marriage. They emphasize that Christian marriage is a commitment of love and that the love of couples is a reflect of God's love, which is everlasting. They taught that marriage is a sacrament, a holy sign of God's grace among men. The early Christians emphasized that husbands and wives should be united in Christ to help them grow deeper in their love. The early believers emphasized that Christians should marry fellow Christians to avoid conflicts arising from religious differences. The early believers also emphasized that husbands and wives should be faithful to each other. Biblical teaching about marriage. Old Testament teaching. The Old Testament teaches that marriage is blessed by God and it was initiated by God. Genesis 1:23. The Old Testament teaches that marriage is meant for procreation. Genesis 1:20 Go forth, produce and subdue the world. The Old Testament teaches that the husbands and wives have equal rights in marriage. The Ten Commandments protect the marriage institution from those who may destroy it, like the 10th Commandment prohibits any man from wishing to possess another man's wife. The Old Testament recognizes a period of courtship which every man should undergo before marrying. For example, Jacob and Rachel had a lovely courtship which lasted for 7 years before marriage. The Old Testament teaches that marriage is supposed to be monogamous because God provided Adam with only one wife, Eve. The Old Testament teaches that marriage is meant for companionship. That is why God created Eve. S3 note sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 22. Dowry was approved by the girl's parents before marriage, and it was compulsory. For example, Isaac had to pay dowry for Rebekah before marriage. The Old Testament teaches that marriage is supposed to be permanent. However, Moses gave circumstances under which the husband could divorce the wife, but the procedure was long and hectic, which made them to eventually reconcile. Widowed inheritance was accepted according to the laws of Moses, whereby a brother to an Israelite who had died had the authority to take over the deceased wife. The Old Testament teaches us that intermarriages with other foreign tribes are prohibited and that Israelites were supposed to marry among the 12 only. The Old Testament calls for faithfulness in marriage. For example, Prophet Hosea's marriage with a prostitute was intended to symbolize faithfulness in marriage. The Old Testament teaches that God promised special happiness to married people. New Testament teaching. The New Testament teaches that marriage is initiated by God and is started by God. Matthew 4:6. The New Testament teaches that marriage is supposed to be monogamous. That is why Jesus emphasized that a man shall leave his father and mother and get united with his wife and become one. Mark 8:10. The New Testament teaches that the husband is the head of the family and he is supposed to fulfill all his responsibilities. The New Testament teaches us that husband and wife to reconcile and forgive each other in case of any challenge in marriage. The New Testament calls upon the wife and husband to be faithful to each other and condemns adultery. The New Testament teaches that marriage without children is incomplete. For example, Zachariah and Elizabeth were childless for a long period of time and cried to God until when God blessed them with a child, John the Baptist. The New Testament teaches married couples to fulfill their conjugal duties. They should sexually satisfy each other without denying each other sexually. The New Testament teaches that Jesus honored marriage. For example, he physically attended a S3 note sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage. 23. The New Testament also calls upon husbands to handle their wives with a lot of care since women are of a weaker sex. The New Testament teaches that marriage is optional, therefore one is free to remain a celibate for the purpose of serving God. Q&A. Give the biblical teachings that can help marriage to be more stable. Q&A. What were the values expected of a good wife according to Proverbs 31:10-31? Hardworking, trustworthy, caring, creative, the one who is loving, humble, a provider, minds about her self-beauty, one who honors the Lord, one who is wise and dignified. Q&3. What should the church do to make marriages stable? Should carry out guidance and counseling of married couples. Should call for monogamous marriages. Should advocate for permanence and condemn divorce. Should promote equality in marriage. Should call for forgiveness and reconciliation among married couples. Should call upon wives to be submissive to their husbands. Should call upon wives and husbands to love each other. Should call upon married partners to satisfy each other sexually. Should call upon married partners to be hardworking. Should call upon married couples to use their marriage to glorify God by doing what is required by God. Should call upon husbands to handle the wives with care because they are of a weak sex. S3 note sub-theme 111 Courtship and Marriage.